Hello, welcome to the Roar Podcast. I'm Destiny Yarbrough, your host today, and we have Dr. Marina McLean hosting tonight on the topic of family, faith, and business. Let me introduce our extraordinary panel to you tonight. We have Catherine Legg, Halston Parks, and Dr. Tracy Mitchell. And we have Dr. Marina McLean, who is going to be hosting tonight's Roar Podcast. Welcome, ladies, to the podcast. Let me ask you, Dr. Marina, how long have you been in the faith journey? And can you really have it all as women, entrepreneurs, mothers, ministers, family managers? We carry so many different hats. How can you do that with a family?
That's a long question, but I take it little by little. You just drop me right in the middle. And so I've been in the faith walk now for 40 years, from getting saved at an early age at 16 and serving my dad in pastorship, and now in ministry with my husband. We've been going to be married 36 years when this comes out. And so it's been a long faith walk, and in that walk, I've made many mistakes and grown a lot too. And I'm happy to say that I wouldn't call myself fully balanced, but I've learned a few things along the way that I can help others with. And some of the mistakes that I've made, I can help others not make that mistake. And when I say have it all, I started this journey called Mega Women the past 3 years. And I've really honed in on this message that women are a hidden economy. And when I started talking about it, I didn't really have this principle of women can have it all. And in the past few years, you've watched the ceiling of women stretch. We've got new women lawyers, the highest set of women judges today, the highest set of women lawyers today, the most increased factor of the private sector is female-owned businesses, and that's of every age group, every generation is represented in that. So when I talk about women can have it all, I know that's a statement when I was growing up was unheard of, but today it is so possible. And there's so many ways to do it, and we will get into that conversation. But I want to just throw it out there because I know it is when you make that kind of a statement. You get the feminist movement, you get the church leaders, you get the denominations all trying to throw things at you. But it really is possible. There is a way to do it and stay sane and keep your faith in the midst of it.
So, Marina, I know a lot of your backstory. I think it would be really helpful if the audience that's listening could hear how you balanced family and church as a young mom.
Yeah, so there was no books written back when I started, like they have books now. I've discovered by doing a First Lady Zoom like this, that there's a book called My Husband Has Two Wives. I'm just like, why didn't I have that book? But how I learned to do that as a young mom, I built community. And I've learned that language now, but at the time I was just doing things, getting people together out of necessity. I had a church community as a young pastor, and I had my children's mothers. I call them my school mom community. I lived in two different areas. My church was a good distance from where my children went to school. So I built two communities. And at the time, people looked at me and said, you're hypocritical. You've got one foot in the world and one foot in the church. But as a young mom, I knew the necessity of building my own community, building people that I could trust. And I don't trust easily anyone in leadership, anyone that is growing in business. You are in any form of standing on a platform, you know that your inner circle is very small. And God had to really stretch me for me to learn how to trust. The first people I could always call on was my mom. And then she told me that she had a life. So then I had to train others. And then my school community, I was busy having to do church, there was moms that I could assign to take my children to be their cheerleaders. And so they could look at, if mom wasn't here, there was a cheerleader here. And I think that's something that executive women need to learn to do, is to build that community. And but some of you, it's going to be 2 or 3 communities. And whatever is necessary for you, do not be a cookie cutter. Develop people who will. You could trust them with your mom. And I've learned my friends along the way. Catherine is one of my friends that when people say, I need a Catherine, I say, no, she's mine. And I've had to learn to trust her with my dear friends. And so when you build your community, not only you thrive, I know Tracy would love that word, not only you thrive, but all those who are around you and involved with you thrive too. This is not a manipulation. You're just here to help me. It's a growing process. And as you grow, you duplicate that. And those that are your community, they duplicate that too. And it just gets bigger and bigger. And then you build a network.
That's so great. Marina, I know that because I know your DNA and I know who you are in this season. And when you talk about business, it's not the traditional business model, but you're actually talking about an economy. So can you kind of unpack that and explain what that means to you?
I base this really on the Proverbs 31 woman, and I used to hate talking about her. But I realized that women, there's things that we do every single day that is an economy for somebody else. And when I first started getting into this, at that time I didn't really have a language for it, but my best friend in London, her name was Sandra, and I watched her go through a divorce. She was in church and she went through a divorce, and she was a you call it playgroup teacher, you call it kindergarten, and there was so much in her. And I said to her, you need to go to school and get certification. And she gave me all the reasons why she couldn't. And so because she was my community, I took care of her kids while she studied. And then then it was reciprocal when I traveled, she took care of my kids. But I watched God use that principle back then to tell me how and show me how it works. That women, the things that you do, for some of you, you are hairdressers. For some of you, it's bookkeeping. For some of you, it's administration. And you do it because it's just common to you. It's in your natural resource to do. And somebody can be paying you to do that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the economy. It's the marketplace has definitely changed. If there's ever a time that we see the marketplace has changed, it is in the 2020, between March and right now. We're in June, and you'll be watching this. I'm sure September, October is going to change again. But we've watched the marketplace change, and we've watched as many businesses are closing, so many entrepreneurs are rising because it's out of our homes and it's digital. The economy looks very different today than it did in my day when I was growing up. Even like.
Thank you for being on the Roar podcast with us. I'm Destiny Yarbrough, your host. Come and let's roar together.